like it's lovely that it's sunny outside and nice and warm, and I've been prepping all my ingredients, but I've forgotten one ingredient. So I've forgotten my desiccated coconut. So I'm going to show you another way.
I have plenty for both of us.
Perfect.
You can make it without, I can make it with.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the snack today actually, because I've been trying to stay away from snacking. Well, I've snacked, but not too much on like sweet stuff. But today I've been for a long walk and a run, and I feel ready to eat something like this. And I love peanut butter, so really excited about this.
Well, I wanted to make these just because for a lot of my corporate demos, I often show how easy it is to put some energy balls together. And I think one of my issues is time when we're cooking, and I'm always about like fat-free stuff. How can we make stuff without equipment? So this one, you don't have to have any food blenders or processors, so it's so easy to put together.
That's so good. That makes everything so easy. You know, back in the day when I made energy balls, initially I used to blend it, and then I almost felt like I was going to break my blender all these dates. And then I started doing it so that I was cooking the dates and softening them and then putting it into balls. But this is so easy. There's nothing to be done. And I love fat-free things. It's so funny because when you said that on your story, you said fat-free. I was like, does she mean fat-free? I was like, I swear he's not. Like, I swear she's not meant to say. Anyway, so yeah, it's not fat-free for anyone who may have mistaken it. Fat-free.
Fat-free. And yeah, I know what you mean about sort of like, I love energy balls with dates, but I think I've tried it in a NutriBullet before, and that didn't work very well because it started sort of smoking everywhere, and so you need that food processor. But for the sweetness for this one, we're using a bit of honey. And you've got like the almond butter or peanut butter. So I think people can like interchange between the two. But also maybe we can touch upon eating for energy, because I know that's something that we were going to discuss as well.
Yeah, and it's all good and well for people to say, you know, don't snack at all. And it's really good not to snack. And I wish I could do that. But I feel like sometimes you get that, you know, that 3 o'clock, you do get a dip, and it's a proven thing, you know, you do get a dip in the middle of the day, and that's why so many people have. And even in the mid-morning, okay, there is such a thing as over snacking, but let's speak about how you can eat, how you can snack well, to make sure you're snacking for energy and nutrition rather than snacking because you're just caving in sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think with things like this, if you're making some of your own energy balls or your own snacks, you can kind of manipulate the content of certain things. So these ones are pretty high fiber, they're a source of protein, and depending on how sweet you like stuff, you can add more or less honey, so you can kind of make it your own, and I guess you save loads of money as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start. The only problem is, right, so you can't really see. I'm just thinking I'll talk through it and like go like this and show every time I do it, because I don't know how with a split screen we're going to manage this unless I go like this.
Oh,
I'll just keep shifting. I'll keep shifting.
Okay. All right. Okay. So first of all, we get some porridge oats, and for these, they're chocolate. Well, I call them cocoa and chia energy balls, or cocoa and peanut energy balls. And I use the porridge oats because they're sort of pre-ground, so they bind a lot better than the whole rolled oats. So if you want to make about, I don't know, sort of 15 large balls or 30 smaller balls, you would use around 90 grams of oats. So you would just throw them into a large bowl.
Yeah, I'm making slightly less. So I'm putting them in, and yeah, I use porridge oats, so that's great. Perfect. There's my oats.
Okay, and then the next ingredient is, I'm using almond butter today, and I actually got this one from Marks and Spencer's, and you can get ones from, where else can you get it from? Pippin Nut.
Oh, I love Pippin Nut almond butter.
Me too. And then you can also get Meridian, and I mean, you can use peanut butter as well, which is like a lovely flavour. I think the Meridian or the Pippin Nut or the one from M&S tend to work well because they have got kind of more of a liquid consistency, so they help to bind the oats together in a better way. But you could try with just regular peanut butter.
I love the liquidy one. The problem is that I don't have the liquidy one. I have like a slightly stodgier one. So what do you do if you have stodgier? Do you like melt it a bit? Do you put a bit of milk in it? How do you?
I guess you could. You could try that. I actually haven't tried it before with a stodgier peanut butter, so I guess you could do
we'll
that.
see what happens today, because mine looks a bit stodgy today.
Oh yeah. Yeah, tell me how it tastes actually with that one. So anyway, so we just pour into the bowl.
Sorry, did you mention how much, just in case anyone's making it with us?
Oh yeah, sorry, about 150 grams of peanut butter.
Grams. And going back to the oats, it's how much?
About 90 grams of
90
oats.
grams and 100. Okay, perfect. Amazing.
The other thing you can do, and I'm not sure if you've done this before, Mira, but I've actually made my own almond butter or even peanut butter, where you roast the peanuts and almonds and then you throw them in that blender, and then the more you blend them, they just turn into a butter. Have you tried that?
Weirdly enough, and oddly enough, I haven't tried it, but my sister-in-law tried it and it was delicious, and she put some vanilla in there. Oh my God, it was so good. And I'm telling you, that's the best almond butter I've ever tasted. So she roasted the almonds for a while in the oven until they became crisp, and then just blended them together. My problem is that if I have peanut butter or almond butter, especially if I have almond butter in the house, I like OD on it. Like, I love it, and it's just the one thing that I keep thinking about them, because I just love almonds, and I love the taste of almond butter even more because I love creamy things, and I could just spoon it and eat it. Like if I had one of those whenever I have pippin nut in the house, or if I have it with me, oh my God, I literally just devour it. So
it's so good. It's very Moorish, and I think like a lot of my clients will snack on things like nut butter, but again, I guess whilst it's like rich in protein and healthy fats like monounsaturated fats and vitamin E, it is still high in calories, so portion control is important. And I did have some clients sort of taking whole sort of jars of it in their bags to snack on, and it didn't turn out well. So I think some of the little sachets that you can buy, so I know Pret a Manger do little almond butter sachets which are portion controlled. Pippin Nut do little sachets which are pretty handy if you're on the go and you're wanting more of a portion controlled snack. But I know exactly what you mean.
I've had those Pret a Manger ones and I love them, but literally I've created a mess every time I've eaten them. My fingers are all gone. I'm like trying to squeeze out every last bit of clean almond butter. So going back to what you said, monounsaturated fats, and the fact that it's a good fat, and obviously you have to restrict the amount you have because it's high in calories as well. And can we just also touch upon, firstly, what monounsaturated fat even means and why it's a good fat, and secondly, how nuts can affect digestion? Because if you have too many nuts, I think it can really not be great for the digestion. It can block things up a bit.
Yeah. So monounsaturated fats are more of a heart healthy fat, and research suggests that if we replace some of the saturated fats in our diets, which may come from animal products like high-fat dairy or meat-based products, and if we replace it with heart-healthy monounsaturated fats, it may have benefits on things like cholesterol levels. And you find monounsaturated fats in things like olive oil and avocado as well. So they're perceived to have benefits for cardiovascular health. And when it comes to nuts, as I was saying, moderation is important. They can be super healthy within the diet, and I do love them. But I guess they are relatively high in fat, and too much fat in a sitting could cause digestive issues for some, even if it's healthy fat. So when we are snacking on nuts, again, another mistake some people make is to buy a bag and eat the whole bag, which can rack up to a lot of fat in one sitting. So you could portion control by sort of counting some nuts out in your hand if you're struggling with knowing what a optimal portion size looks like.
Amazing. Okay, great. That's really helpful. Something I need to do. So yeah, mine is not looking as good as yours. But what do you do after this? I'm going to try and figure out how to do this whole peanut butter stodgy thing.
Then we're going to add some cocoa powder. So you can really use any that you like, but you want the unsweetened version. And I have the green and blacks cocoa powder, which you can actually use any, just as long as it's like a plain cocoa powder. So we add in about 2 generous heaped tablespoons of that into your bowl.
Great.
Just see who's entered. So Georgina's just entered, Tom's just entered. Who else has come in? So Scott's entered. I'm just seeing who else I know here.
Yeah. So if anyone is making it with us, let us know and how it turns out as well. And we'll
Yeah, we would love to know. And any questions you have on anything nutrition based, just pop them into the chat box, and we'll answer as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So that is what it looks like so far. Then we add some honey. So I mean, with energy balls, you do need something to bind them. So whether it's dates or honey, and I know that some people suggest that we should try and reduce the sugar content of certain energy balls, which can be true. You do need some sweetener because otherwise it doesn't taste great, but also it doesn't bind together. So for these, I usually use around 3 tablespoons of honey. And then it means per energy ball, it doesn't equate to that much, and that helps to bind it. So we just...
That's not a lot at all, yeah. So that's not actually super sweet, which is really nice.
It's not. And I mean, for some people, they like it sweeter. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to have the option of having slightly less, because sometimes I think the energy balls that I make, they bind together with dates. And so actually I can't really reduce the amount of dates because that's the main thing. And so it is super sweet, whereas this will be hopefully less sweet because I'm kind of moderating the amount of honey I put.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've just had someone, Nurture Consultancy. I think you've attended one of my last lives, and she's definitely going to make them, which is great.
And someone saying they're watching while they're queuing at Tesco. Well, I hope you're buying all the ingredients.
Yeah, because you can actually buy all of this from your local supermarket. So that's what it looks like at the moment.
Okay, mine's a dash stodgy, but I'm still working on that consistency. So for anyone who's just joined, we're making energy balls, Lily's fantastic recipe. Really, really, really simple. You don't have to blend them or cook them, which is amazing. So go on, next bit.
Yeah. So the next bit was the chia seed. So this is optional whether you want to include it, but I'm a big fan of chia seeds, and the reason for this is because they're super high fiber, a source of omega-3 fats, and a source of protein. So as a population, we are meant to aim for 30 grams of fiber per day. And one of the issues is that we're not actually reaching our 30 grams of fiber per day as a population. So we're getting just over half of this. And so it's a big issue. And we know that fiber aids with healthy digestion, helps to keep us fuller for longer. It's good for other health outcomes as well. And 2 tablespoons of these chia seeds provide about 11 grams of fiber. So it's just over a third of our daily intake, which is great. So for this one, we put in about 2 tablespoons of chia. And again, this isn't that difficult to find. You can actually buy chia seeds from places like Tesco's. So it's becoming more and more easy to find.
And you made a delicious chia pudding yesterday on your Instagram. Which
yeah. So that just shows how much fiber is in there. When you soak chia seeds, they turn into this kind of like gel-like consistency, which some people like, some people don't like. But it just shows you how much fiber's in there, and you just let them soak overnight.
Amazing. And yeah, soaking them again makes them easier, I guess. Does it make it easier for them to digest, or not really? Soaking them
can be beneficial for some people because it can help with digestion. I mean, there's not a huge amount in here. It's only a very, very small amount of chia seeds, it's fine. But for others, if you're new to chia seeds, you may want to soak them before you eat them, just to aid with digestive health.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think when it comes to this sort of thing, you're using a little bit, and so it doesn't make a difference. Whereas you're right, when you're actually eating them, then you want to soak them, and it keeps you full. You're right, it keeps you full for longer, which is amazing.
Absolutely. So then we just literally stir.
Amazing. I'm actually having to use my hand. I'm not going to share anyone just yet because mine was so stodgy. I'm going to have to use my hand.
Yeah, I'm just going to take my ring off because I actually put gloves on to do this, which I probably should have warned you about, but it just saves like mess. Because I start using my hands, because you can stir it, but you almost want to make it into a sort of dough, a dough-like consistency.
Oh my God, so good. And you're right, it's just enough sweetness for me. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine was dodgy, but still turned out well. I'll show you. The thing is, I did end up using like porridge oats, but about a tablespoon of jumbo because I had a mixture of both in my jar. But it's not too bad. I mean,
Yeah, perfect. And if it's a little bit moist or too dry, you can start adding in a little bit more honey or almond butter. And each time I do it, it tends to be slightly different, the consistency. So the measurements are very rough. It really doesn't matter if you don't get them exact.
I actually think it's fine for me. I really like this consistency. It's perfect to roll. I can easily roll it, and I've actually just made my first one, which I've rolled in coconut.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that looks great. So this is, oh, my hands look so messy right now. It's not as messy as it looks, but that's kind of like the dough that you have.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. We've matched. Oh my God, my hands are like mud.
And do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to roll mine in some cocoa powder because I've forgotten my desiccated coconut.
Well, then we have two options, which is nice.
Yeah,
amazing.
You can actually.
Oh, they look like truffles then.
They do look like truffles, healthier truffles, and they're great for children as well, like a alternative. But what I would do with these is just keep them in the fridge to harden, and then they're easier to transport if you're on the go. And you can also roll them in things like raspberry powder, sesame seeds. Is there anything else you roll yours in?
I have previously rolled it in a very ground almonds and pistachios, but that's a bit of a faff.
Yeah.
Because I have to grind them in that sort of way or like slice them. I don't see the point of that. Someone did ask, can we add almonds to them? And I feel like almonds would be a bit, I don't know, you tell me. Almond butter's fine, but I'm not sure about almonds.
I guess the flavour wouldn't affect the flavour because I've put almond butter in mine, but you can obviously, as I was saying, put peanut butter in there. I think if you're going to add almonds, I would add ground almonds, so the powdered almonds, because it just won't stick. You could crush up your almonds and then roll them in afterwards. Whether they would stick and stay, I'm not too sure.
Okay, amazing. Well, look, this is what they look like if anyone's... I'm going to quickly, while you take any other questions, go wash these crazy hands
Perfect.
for a second and then come back.
So just in terms of questions, I think Alison has asked, can you freeze them if you make a big batch? So many people ask me that, and I really do need to try it at some point because I'm not totally sure. They last around 2 weeks if you keep them in an airtight container in the fridge. So they do last quite a while because all the ingredients used in there have a long shelf life. I need to try freezing them. It's worth a try, but I've just not done that before.
Freeze well, and you have to put them in a Ziploc bag. But also, my friend Shivi Ramater has just published her book Ice Kitchen, and it's all about how to freeze things. I'm just going to look up while we're talking if she's got energy balls in here because I feel like she spoke about it on our call. But I think they do freeze okay. Anyway, if anyone wants this book, it's Shivi's book. But anyway, I think she said you can freeze them and you can put them in a Ziploc. But make sure that the Ziploc is actually sealed because then you won't get those ice particles in them.
Oh yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, Mira, because what have you put in your energy balls before? Because I know you've done some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
and I love the fudge that you do.
Oh yeah, so the energy balls that we have in the cafe are made with cocoa powder, cinnamon, and peanut butter and dates. But the dates are, you have to melt them or blend them. I melt them and then I make the whole thing. But the thing is, they are sweeter because the consistency is sort of dates. So when I try these, they're far less sweet and they're, like you said, less of a faff to make, which I love. So I love these. And I'm not saying that mine's better or worse or whatever, but mine are a lot more filling because per energy ball, you get like a whole date and a half, which is a lot.
And ideally dates, I guess, you also come with fiber and nutrients. So there's pros and cons of both. But the dates, do you soak dates before you blend them? Because no,
I don't blend them either. I basically soften them in the microwave, and then in a pan, I stir everything together. So it becomes like a big cake, a big like stodge, like this. But like rather than doing it in this way, I put it into a pan and heat it up. because the
Oh,
dates really
amazing.
melt and soften. So it's quite a different way of doing it, because when I initially started making them, I blended them and it was just such a, like you said, faff, because some of these are a faff and your fingers get messy and your blender gets really messy and sometimes they're too hard. And so all of that sort of, this takes the hassle out of energy balls, which I love.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. Well,
Okay.
that is, and that's the rest of the mix. You would just literally carry on rolling that into balls and
Just in case, this is how you do it. If you put, yeah, if you put desiccated coconut in a bowl, you literally just roll it like this because it's sticky, so it will just stick on, and then you take it out and it's done.
Yay. Oh, amazing. Just seeing if there's anyone. Alison said she's going to try freezing it. It would be great to know how that goes and what the outcome is. And the book, she's asked about the book. What was that called again?
It's called The Ice Kitchen by Shivi Ramatar. It came out 2 weeks ago and she's great. So I'll tag her afterwards as well and let her know that we've mentioned her. What kind of dates do you use? Do you have anything else apart from frying them? I don't fry them, I just warm them and melt them. And I use soft dates. Well, actually, they're not even that soft. I use a block of dates, but when you put any dates into a microwave or, you know, in a pan, and as long as you don't burn them, they will soften. So you can also, like Lily said, you can soak them, I think. Right?
Yeah, because it softens them, because the medjool dates are slightly softer, but sometimes I get dates and they're quite hard,
Yeah.
and or they harden, and then if you leave them in water, they go a lot softer and moister, and they're easier just to blend.
I'll tell you one thing about softening dates by putting them in water. If you add water to anything, like these will last for a very long time because there's no water in them. But the minute you add water to things, I think it will probably reduce the expiry date. I don't know though. I could be kind of wrong about that, but I think that might be the case.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I guess
we
can only try and see.
Yes. Well, if you make them, let Lily and I know how it freezes, because I haven't frozen mine before. So what was I going to?
Someone's asked Mira, what dates do you use?
Making this.
Oh.
I don't know why it keeps getting sort of frozen. Sorry, it got frozen for a second. Sorry, I don't know if that was me. Someone asked, sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't see that question.
Someone asked, what dates do you use?
Oh, what dates do I use? I just use a block of dates that you, like, it's not medjool. I mean, I love medjool dates, but I think sometimes if you just find one of those blocks, which are, I can't see them right now, the blocks, they're quite hard, but once you soften them, they're already chopped up and the pits are already taken out, because I make so many of them. But if you have medjool, amazing, that's probably the best one to use. I just I think they're too expensive for me because I use so many, and also I need pitted ones because I sell them in my cafe and I need to make big amounts, so I use the pitted dates. But anyway, going back to snacking, can you tell us a little bit more about your sort of idea of snacking and how to beat that slump that you get, and how to really get that energy back up without overdoing it?
I think in the afternoon, so many people struggle with that post-lunch slump. And I know I did a poll on Instagram saying how many of you really struggle with that afternoon slump. And I think about 90% of people said that they really are fatigued. And I guess energy can massively hinder our productivity. And if we're really struggling in the afternoon, it just slows everything down. And I think when it comes to that post-lunch slump, it's actually partly to do with our circadian rhythm. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the circadian rhythm, where it's almost like an internal body clock, which determines whether it's day or whether it's night. And it naturally will peak and trough throughout the day. And in the afternoon, we get a bit of a dip. So people will generally struggle with that slump. But I think what you eat at lunchtime could exacerbate things and make it worse. So there's not loads of research around the lunchtime meal and that afternoon slump. But what's thought is that if you really do struggle with fatigue in the afternoon and you're having like a massive lunch, which is pretty high fat, you may feel more fatigued than you usually would. So the first tip would be to try to prevent it as much as possible if you can by having a more balanced lunch. And maybe like an afternoon snack rather than a really heavy lunch. And what I generally say is try to fill half your plate with veg, or as much veg as you can, just to kind of balance the macronutrient content of your plate. So it's about 2 fistfuls of veg, a quarter with your cooked carbohydrates, so like a heaped hand or 2 heaped cans of cooked carbs, like your brown rice, your pasta, whole grain bread. And then the last quarter is your protein and fat. So it's like a palm to 2 palms of protein, like your meat, your fish, eggs, or tofu tempeh, and about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of oil. And that's more of a balanced plate. But if you struggle with that post-lunch slump, it can be easy to reach for quick fix foods to give you a boost. Often they are short-lived. So making slightly healthier alternatives where you can manipulate the sugar content of certain things like energy balls could be a good idea. I often say try and focus on snacks which have a source of fiber and protein to help keep you full. So I love things like hummus and carrots, boiled eggs are great. Even like a banana or apple and dipping it into a bit of nut butter can be good. Because I think often we don't crave sugar alone. We never want to eat sugar by the spoon or like bags of like cubes of white sugar. We're often looking for a bit of fat and sugar together, which give it those hyperpalatable qualities. And I think one thing which, as a lifestyle factor, which people could focus on in terms of energy in the afternoon is movement. So like even just a brisk walk or stretching can massively invigorate us and can be an instant energy booster, because sometimes we're fatigued because we're literally sitting in the same place for ages, and our brain can start getting a bit frazzled, and going for a brisk walk or stretching could give us energy without reaching for food or caffeine.
Yeah, and also I think for me, in being in this lockdown, I often find that once I've eaten dinner, that's the point at which I want to keep going. You know, like I may have fasted all afternoon, been fine. Suddenly I eat an early dinner, I'm like, oh, I'm still hungry, I'll have more, and then I crave something sweet. What I try and do now is after dinner, as soon as I've had dinner, I'll walk out the house, go for that walk, and that will just make sure that craving sort of pacifies and goes away. Because my craving after dinner, I don't know what happens to me, I just suddenly want food, like more and more and more food. So I think going for that walk really helps me.
Absolutely. I guess it's also distracting you, because when we're in lockdown or at the moment, often we're obviously in the same environment all the time, and our workspace generally is in close proximity to the fridge, the kitchen cupboards, which we wouldn't experience when we are in offices or when we are working away from home or we're out and about on the go. And I guess there's less distractions, but going for that evening walk, which I've also been doing, can really help with things. And I guess it just helps in terms of just overall well-being and mood, because we know it does boost mood, movement as well.
Amazing. Well, that's a really good tip, because that's something that I feel like by default has helped me a lot.
Good.
But I wanted to show you my balls. They're done, all of them.
Yay! They look amazing. They look great.
Yeah.
I have that bowl as well from Anthropology. Is that where you got
Yes,
yours from? Yeah,
so.
I've got that.
I
love
one.
that one.
But anyway,
yeah, they look really good.
I literally cannot wait to eat a whole one of those. But yeah, I've also made them. I think the best thing about this is, firstly, it's fat-free. There's just not a lot of hassle in this. Secondly, you can make them whatever size you want. So you can make them big or small. If you want to make them really small, then they can be little bite-sized treats that you have with your cup of chai, which I've got ready as well, or with your coffee or whatever you want. Now, talking about chai and coffee and tea and their afternoon slump, what's your take on that? Because somebody did message me about that and about how, can I ask you, or can they ask if tea and coffee, what time is best to have it, and what's the latest time one should be having caffeine, even if they're not affected by caffeine later? Does it affect their, melatonin or sleep?
So caffeine is a funny one. Like, we actually all have different, I guess there is the way you metabolize caffeine is determined by your genes and your genetic makeup. So not everyone's going to respond to caffeine in the same way. So you have some people who are fast metabolizers who will get through that caffeine pretty quickly and may feel absolutely fine with that coffee just before bed, you know, like an after dinner coffee. Doesn't affect their sleep. Then you have others who may drink coffee in the afternoon. It makes them feel jittery and they really struggle to sleep that night. I'm probably one of those kind of people. And so I've really had to shift my caffeine consumption to earlier on in the day, before 12 o'clock, because I know it's going to really affect me. So it's a very unique situation as to whether you can cope with caffeinated beverages and whether it will affect your sleep. And also it's a unique situation in terms of whether things like caffeinated beverages may be more beneficial or more harmful to you. In general, if we look at things like tea, it's full of antioxidants, and you know, for most people, tea consumption is pretty a good thing. But if you're one of those people where moderate amounts makes you feel really jittery and you do struggle with sleep, you may want to bring it back to earlier on in the day, maybe before 12ish, because the half-life of caffeine is quite long. However, we do know that tea has less caffeine in than, say, coffee, and it depends on how long you steep your tea for. Yeah, things like matcha green tea are interesting because it's got that L-theanine in, which is a component in tea which is thought to stimulate feelings of relaxed alertness and clarity. So it's slightly different in comparison to other sort of types of tea.
Yeah, I love matcha, although I haven't had it recently. I used to have it like in the cafe, but I've got matcha with me, so I'm going to have one today. But yeah, it gives you that sort of slight sense of elevation and energy without giving you that jitteriness, which I think.
Yeah. But I think even things like, as you were mentioning, chai, I remember coming to your cafe, I think it was last year, and it was our hottest day. It was so hot that day. It was the day where it's almost 40 degrees in London. And we had your iced chai latte. It was so delicious. It was a rose chai latte. That was unbelievable. Because I was like, oh, so lovely and creamy. It was coconut and just something slightly different.
I think also spices generally, putting spices in your tea or whatever it is, generally they just give you that extra sense of sort of energy, and it helps with digestion. All these spices are great for digestion, so I just sprinkle them on everything. But I think there's something to be said for something that's a bit, you know, calming and not too many flavors going on, which I think these energy balls are great for. Even though I sprinkle spice on everything, I kind of like that there's not much in here, and I'm going to try one now because I haven't had one yet.
Yay! Oh,
it's honestly, I have to say, delicious. Like, they just taste light, and they are light.
Yeah, they really are, like, so easy to do. And you know, when it comes to cooking, like, I enjoy cooking, but I'm no chef, and so I'm always dealing with very time poor people, and a lot of the food demos I do are in offices or in workspaces, so I'm always trying to think of recipes that you can do with as little faff as possible, basically, but still taste good.
Honestly, they're delicious. Like, I love them, and they're perfect size. Like, I made half the amount of yours, and I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10, 12 balls.
Great.
Yeah, it's become a staple for me. Thanks, Lily.
Okay. Well, yay, that's so good. Just quickly, before we finish, I just wanted to ask you about spices, because we do know there's loads of benefits of adding spices to the food, and it's something I've sort of struggled in the past with, is to know how can I incorporate spices into my recipes as easily as possible. And so during the lockdown, I've been doing a lot more cooking in terms of things like dal, and I've been experimenting with more spices. But apart from things like chai and dal, what else can I add spices to make things really flavorful?
Yeah, so that's the thing I like focusing on, how to use spices on a daily basis without thinking, oh, let me take out my spices just because I'm having a curry night, for example. You can use it on anything. So, for example, if you're roasting vegetables in the oven, say you're putting on a batch of sweet potato wedges with some courgettes or something. You can put a bit of olive oil, drizzle some olive oil, put some salt and pepper, but add some cumin seeds to that. Or you can add garam masala, for example. Just a sprinkle of garam masala or some cumin seeds or some cumin powder. It literally just changes the flavor so much that you feel like, firstly, there's variety in terms of the flavor, so you don't get bored as easily. And secondly, it enhances digestion, because these seeds are great for, you know, digestion, everything. This is like a little box. Like, this is the box that basically every Indian household has. So you can literally just take it out very, very easily. And the cumin seeds are here. Now, if you're making a stir fry, for example, or a curry, but even if it's a stir fry, you can put a tiny bit of oil, put some cumin seeds, and you can add some mustard seeds if you want, which are great when paired up with cumin seeds. So I think the basis of every curry, every dal, every Indian dish, but also you can make this the basis of a lot of different things, you know, whether you're cooking a stir fry, you know, whatever it is, ratatouille, anything you're making, you can add things like cumin seeds without making it too Indian. And even things like paprika. Now, paprika is not an Indian spice, but paprika is a great one to just add that flavor, like smoked paprika, for example, if you want to get that smokiness. And turmeric, of course, but the one thing I would say about turmeric, you know, people are going on and on about turmeric. It's amazing. And in hot milk, you can put lots of turmeric in and drink it. But if you're putting it into a curry or if you're putting it into your cooking, you can't overdo the turmeric because it will ruin the flavor. So you want turmeric in everything, but you want a pinch of it in everything. And then you can add more if you want. But if you overdo it, like if you're making a small curry and you put a whole teaspoon of turmeric, it will overpower that curry and make it very bitter. So while you can... And secondly, if you're making turmeric milk, for example, you want to put a pinch of black pepper, because I don't know, you might know about this, but piperine, which is the component in black pepper, enhances or makes turmeric more absorbable in our body and increases the absorption possibility.
You're right. The curcumin in turmeric is the active component, and I think it aids the bioavailability by about 2,000% when you have the black pepper with it. Yeah, but that's so interesting about the bitter flavor, because I've been putting turmeric into the dal, but I'm like, what ratio should I put? So I've put I make a big batch and I've done 2 tablespoons of the curry powder and then 1 teaspoon of turmeric, but I wasn't sure what flavors I was introducing. And then I put smoked paprika over the chickpeas and then roasted those. And I can't believe how much flavor you can have with just spices. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think if you learn the basic techniques, like follow a cookbook, an Indian cookbook or a recipe online, just for the first few times you do it, then you understand what needs to be done. For example, you do not want to put, if you're making a curry, a stir fry, a dal or anything, you don't want to put any of these seeds into the curry afterwards or into the dal. You have to fry these first, otherwise you can taste that they're uncooked. So you have to put a tiny bit of oil, cook or fry these and the mustard seeds first, let them really go brown and start popping. And it's the vegetables or whatever it is, the meat or whatever you're putting in, you want to put in after that. And garlic, ginger, chili, all of that's very important as well. But here I'm just talking about these spices. So if you were doing the garlic, ginger, chili, you would do these spices first because they have to cook first. Then you put the garlic, ginger, chili or onions, and then you put whatever curry you're making, vegetables, meat, tofu, paneer, whatever it is. So if you just understand those basic things, then that makes Indian cooking or any cooking really a lot simpler.
That's so interesting. And I think with a lot of the sort of like Indian style dishes, there's a lot of lentils, chickpeas used in them. And as we were discussing energy, they're high fiber, high protein, a source of carbohydrates, and they provide like a steady release of energy to the body and brain. So they're great for like lunch, dinners, if you're looking for optimal energy. So I'm going to be doing more of that.
Amazing. Well, that was really, really interesting. I mean, obviously we could go on. I was about to ask you because you spoke about chickpeas, I was about to ask you about lectins and how cooking beans and pulses and chickpeas gets rid of those lectins and why they're harmful. But I mean, that's maybe for another talk.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's great to have so many people joining in, and I hope you all enjoyed the session and love to know how the freezing of those energy balls go.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for joining in and thank you for your questions. And if you make Lily's amazing balls, energy balls, then let us know, because honestly,